The regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees is August 28th. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, and tonight we're being led by a Pleasantdale Elementary School named Joey Catazone. He is, per his principal, Kathleen Tomei, tonight's pledge leader. Shared that he lives, of course, with his parents, older sister, and his dog. His favorite subjects are PE and math. In his free time, he likes to play soccer with his sister. In addition, he plays football and baseball. And finally, he likes to squeeze in some time to play Minecraft. As a goal for fourth grade, Joey wants to do well in reading comprehension. I know I met his dad, George, and I met his mom and his sister, Alexa, and his best friend. And now we're going to ask Joey to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, a roll call, please. Karen?
Trustee Francis. Here. Trustee Model.
Here.
Trustee Pavesa.
Here.
Trustee Mattel.
Here.
Trustee Snyder.
Here.
Trustee Schiappa.
Here.
Mayor Straub.
Here. Our first presentation tonight, we're honored to have a special guest tonight, Senator John F. Curran, District 41. He is, as of July of 2017. Now, prior to joining the General Assembly, John Curran served as Vice Chairman of the DuPage County Board and was a board member from 2008 to 2017. Following 19 years working as an assistant state's attorney in the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, he now works as an attorney in a private law firm in Oak Brook. He received his degree from Northern Illinois University. Does much of legal work, sits on different boards of directors. I asked for some additional information to be prepared here, and because I've known him for a long time, and it's just an honor to have you here tonight. And thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Mayor. To the Mayor and the Board of Trustees, I want to thank you for extending me the courtesy to visit with you this evening and introduce myself in this capacity. I really appreciate everything the Village Board does for our community. As civic leaders, you realize that the key to being a good citizen means being part of a better community. It means helping others. It means giving back to society. Neither you nor I would be here tonight without that spirit of service. I was sworn in July 26th as the 41st District State Senator, taking the place of former Senate Republican leader Christine Radogno, who was a perfect example of a true public servant. It truly is an honor to represent all or parts of Burr Ridge, Lamont, Indian Head Park, LaGrange, Western Springs, Homer Glen, Darien, Downers Grove, Lyle, Woodridge, Willowbrook, Naperville, and Bolingbrook. Most importantly, I am a father, a husband, a taxpayer, a neighbor, someone who, just like you, is trying to do my best to make sense of the issues facing our communities, our region, and our state. I went to Springfield ready to serve the residents of the 41st District. With a little more than a month of legislative duty under my belt, I can tell you that the experience is exciting, it's challenging, and it's a real eye-opener. Much of those challenges are fiscal. Illinois, the results of years and years of a lagging economy and bad financial decisions like borrowing and overspending. My focus is passing crucial job-creating reforms and legislation that will improve our economic growth, business climate, and fiscal stability to provide a better future for all residents. With the right leadership, we can steer our economy back on track and once again reclaim our status as a leading state in which to live, work, and play, and raise a family. I am looking forward to the coming year, but certainly I need your input. It's my job to serve you and your interests, and that comes with good communication. I look forward to that. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me with with any state or local matter. A lot of legislation Illinois has passed began with concerned or active members of the community. I would like to take one moment of personal privilege, Your Honor. If I could, I would just like to congratulate Sergeant Ryan Husarek and Corporal John Helms for their attainment of their ranks in your police department. Certainly something to be very proud of. So once again, I would like to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to introduce myself this evening, and I look forward to continuing to work with you on continuing the tradition of Burr Ridge as a wonderful community to live in. Thank you.
And now we're going to have the swearing-in ceremony of Sergeant Ryan Husarek and Corporal John Helms.
Good evening. Due to the recent retirement of Sergeant Jerry Karczewski, the Burr Ridge Fire and Police Commission have authorized 2 promotions, one to the rank of corporal and one to the rank of sergeant to fill Sergeant Karczewski's spot. Our first up will be Corporal Ryan Husarek. He's here with his family and his 2 children, his wife Christy. And Ryan was hired in 2005, and he was promoted to corporal in 2012. So I can have the clerk down to swear him in.
Do you, Ryan Husarek, solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of Sergeant of the Village of Burr Ridge to the best of your ability?
Pressure's on. How do I do?
Now if I could have Officer John Holmes and his wife Kim. And Officer Holmes was hired in 2002 as a patrol officer. You come up front here. Go ahead.
Do you, John Helms, solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of corporal of the Village of Burr Ridge to the best of your ability?
Now, what we're going to do is going to reorder something that's very appropriate to move the Resolution 7A, consideration of adoption of resolution of appreciation, recognizing retirement after 29 years dedicated service to the Village of Burr Ridge. A resolution I'm going to read to Sergeant Gerald Jerry Karczewski. Whereas Sergeant Gerald Jerry Karczewski provided exceptional service to the Village of Burr Ridge for 29 years, and on August 3rd, 2017, retired from his position as sergeant with the Village of Burr Ridge Police Department. And whereas Sergeant Jerry Karczewski. Is it Karczewski or Karczewski?
Karczewski.
Well, I'm Polish. I was doing it, my natural way was Karczewski. Whereas Sergeant Jerry Karczewski, who joined the force on July 11th, 1988 as a patrol officer, was promoted to a corporal on May 7th, 1990, and was promoted to sergeant on January 1st, 2000. Serving as patrol sergeant and detective sergeant, has seen many changes in the Burr Ridge Police Department in the last 29 years and has played an important part in these changes. Whereas Sergeant Jerry Karczewski has served as senior watch commander, range master, instructor, and field training coordinator, to name just a few of his accomplishments. And whereas Sergeant Jerry Karczewski has been a mentor to his subordinates, as well as his peers during his 29 years with the force, and was a valued member of the police department command staff. Now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and board of trustees of the village of Burr Ridge, Cook and DuPage counties, that Gerald Jerry Karczewski will hold a place of esteem in the minds and hearts of the residents and employees of the village, and has offered our sincere congratulations on his retirement after 29 years of dedicated service. Adopted this 28th day of August 2017 by the mayor and board of trustees. May I have a motion to accept this resolution, Resolution 7A, in honor of Sergeant Jerry Karczewski?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Martell? Yes. Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
Trustee Model?
Yes.
6-0.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Enjoy it.
Congratulations and thank you for your service.
Okay. Next, we have a section for residents' comments. Now, I know I see that number of non-residents here is 2, just to make sure that you all know that residents have this section. We cover first, and non-residents at the end of the board meeting. Are there any residents that would like to address the board at this time? Oh, yes, I see. I'm sorry. You have to go to the microphone. Introduce yourself. Let us know where you live.
5 minutes, right? I have 5 minutes?
Yes, 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Yvonne Mayer. I'm a 16-year resident of Burr Ridge. I've never attended one of your meetings before, but felt compelled tonight in order to address the public comments 3 of you made at last week's D86 Board of Education meeting, in which you represented you were speaking on behalf of all the village residents. It's my opinion that you spoke out of turn and without knowledge of all the facts. I am therefore here tonight to respectfully ask you to educate yourselves. As you can see, I am a minority woman. I am Hispanic. When I moved here with my husband and 4 children from Michigan in August 2001, we made a choice to buy a house based upon what we could afford, where we wanted to live, and our desire to have our children attend Hinsdale Central High School when they were of age. We did not pick D86. We picked the individual high school. Our house is not in the buffer zone. It is in a portion of Burr Ridge that has always fed into Elm School in D181 and Hinsdale Central High School. We could have afforded a larger home with lower property taxes in other parts of Burr Ridge, but those homes did not feed into Central. Over the last 16 years, I have been happy with the choice my family made, happy with the schools, and happy to live in Burr Ridge. While not active in village politics, I have been active in the schools and was elected to serve a 4-year term on D181's Board of Education in 2009. I have been vocal and active in D86 as well and regularly attend those board meetings. I have voted in the local village elections and voted to seat you as our representatives. Until last week, I had no issue with how the village government has been run. I was therefore very disappointed to attend last week's board meeting, D86 meeting, and hear 3 of you speak for all Burr Ridge residents and suggest that the D86 administration and its board have allowed the degradation of Hinsdale South at the expense of Hinsdale Central High School. I believe what you meant was that you think South and its students have suffered because more money has been spent on Central. You also claimed that what has been happening is discriminatory. You claimed you were not going to tolerate this and were going to come back to your Board of Trustees and see what the Village of Burr Ridge can do about it. The problem with your public comments was that you forgot you represent all Burr Ridge residents. I'm here tonight to respectfully inform you that you did not speak for me, a long-standing Burr Ridge resident, nor did you speak for other Burr Ridge residents whose children have always attended Hinsdale Central. Your comments did not represent my interests as a resident who wants to ensure my children are allowed to go to the high school that I chose for my kids and that our property feeds into, and who does not believe there is discrimination or unequal academic instruction between the 2 high schools. I ask that in the future, you not presume to speak for the entire village of Burr Ridge when addressing other taxing bodies. For you to do that assumes you have done your homework, gathered facts and data to support your allegations. It assumes you have taken a community survey to ask all Burr Ridge residents what their positions and opinions are on a specific issue. It also assumes you have reached out to D86 representatives, whether it be the superintendent or sitting elected board members, and had substantive, respectful discussions with them about your concerns. You did neither before making your comments at the D86 board meeting, and as a result, some of your constituents now rightfully are questioning your motives and your authority to speak for us. Had you done your homework, I think you would have discovered that there is no discrimination between how the board, the D86 board and administration treat the schools and students. There is no inequity amongst the quality of instruction. But most importantly, you would have realized that 7 board members who currently serve all D86 feeder districts and their related communities actually care and are committed to addressing issues of concern and ensuring academic equity and excellence for all D86 students. So I ask you tonight not to speak for me again, or suggest to your fellow trustees that Burr Ridge address what is going on in D86. Because in fact, there is a mix of Burr Ridge constituents who do not all share the same opinions on D86 issues. And it is not really your place to interject yourselves as public officials in D86 matters on our behalf and then represent them as those of the entire village. I urge you to think twice before involving yourself in the work of another taxing body. For you to attend another public entity's board meeting, use threatening language, and make uninformed accusation only served to create more divisiveness in the D86 communities. Your actions last week were not constructive. Please allow the D86 board and administration...
Bailey, your 5 minutes is up. Just
I
can you
have
wrap
2
it up?
sentences left, please.
Okay.
Please allow the D86 board and administration to do their work. If you want to help, ask them how you can help. If you want to help, please make sure you are not just touting the opinions of one vocal group of Burr Ridge voters while ignoring the opinions of others. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Marty?
My name is Marty Gleason. For a great number of years, I've lived at 80th and County Line in what was originally the village of Hinsdale before Burr Ridge incorporated and annexed us. And this morning, not this morning, I've been very busy since about 4 o'clock this morning, but I wanted to draw to your attention the fact that we have a problem in our country. The problem is that we have a president who's a pathological liar. Now, you might ask, what do I know about pathological liars? We had one in the state of Illinois. He happened to be a Democrat, and his name was Paul Powell. Asked me about the whole story sometime. When he died, was dead for 2 days before anybody found out, and they searched a closet at the St. Nicholas Hotel and found close to $1 million in cash. And he always denied that he was not a dishonest man, and he was. Recently, a grandson of mine has taken the bar exam and is a graduate of law school. And I gave him a copy of 2 very important and timely books. They were both about Abraham Lincoln. And with what has transpired at the University of Virginia and so forth, it is too long for me to repeat this, but many people speak of his various of the Lincoln addresses. The second inaugural is the most important. I'm not going to read it to you, but I am going to refer to the bottom line of that address, and I recommend it to all of you. If you want to know what this country is about, read what Abraham Lincoln said right as the Civil War was about to end. With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations. I recommend that you take every opportunity to read the entirety of the second inaugural address. I also wanted to discuss another matter, which I will present. Refugees and immigrants welcome here. No Muslim ban, no border wall, our community stand tall. I ascribe to that background. We are, after all somewhere or another immigrants, and we should respect all of the immigrants in this community and be nice and polite to all of them. Now, I might mention that the mayor and I share distinctive political duties other than as a citizen in my case and his as a village official. He is the Republican precinct committeeman in the same precinct in which I'm the Democratic precinct committeeman. He's a nice guy in spite of his bad moves and political party choice, but we'll all get over it. And I recommend very strongly that we accept the fact that we have a pathological liar in the White House. I do not expect him to be there very long, and it is very scandalous and a very bad thing for this country. Thank you for listening to me. I'll be happy to entertain any questions. I'm going to leave very shortly because there are important duties like watching the Cubs and the White Sox and various other things tonight. Take care. Thank you very much.
Marty. Yes, sir.
Robert Hogan.
You're a resident?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a resident of Lake Ridge Drive, 25 years.
You need to go to the microphone?
I was asking, may I have somebody speak on my behalf on a topic?
No. No. Resident? Yeah, Alice?
Alice Krampitz, 7515 Drew, Burr Ridge. I'm here tonight as chairman of the I&M Canal Civic Center Authority. It is that time of year again for the rendezvous. So we want to thank the Burr Ridge Village for their donation, their annual donation. It has been received. I'd just like to announce the dates quickly and let you know that I'm also on the board now of the Heritage Corridor Visitors Group as well. And they published this book, which I've submitted to you, and there are extra copies I'll leave out here for the public. It's a very nice rendition of all the activities and events that are going on along the whole I&M Canal area. We also have the newest book, which is the Illinois Craft Beer and Spirits, and they're calling it like the Ale Trail. That's A-L-E, not A-I-L, although you might have A-I-L afterwards, I don't know. But it's a fun listing of all the activities that are related to breweries, microbreweries, all those places you can visit. And then, of course, as most of you know, the Civic Center Authority owns the Santa Fe Prairie, and then we do the Rendezvous. So this year, the annual Rendezvous event, which is a reenactment of the 1700s and the early 1800s, will be held at the Columbia Woods, which is actually in Willow Springs. It's called the River Through History, and the dates are Saturday, September 9th, and Sunday, September 10th of 2017. Saturday is 10 to 5, Sunday is 10 to 4. This event is accessible by shuttle bus, so we ask everyone to park up near 75th and Willow Springs Road, which is the UPS parking lot, and then you will be shuttled from that parking lot over to Columbia Woods. There is a fee, an admission fee, $10 for adults, $5 for kids, seniors, veterans. But there will be live entertainment. There will be tomahawk throwing demonstrations. You guys can get your aggressions out. You can try it if you want. There will be some frontier food, some root beer. We have a skillet toss where the ladies, you can try to hit those men for being obnoxious. Kind of a fun activity. There are games and all kinds of other activities, and of course, everybody is dressed in the appropriate time frame clothing. So it's a very nice event. It is its 27th year, and we're very proud to host it. So I hope you can join us. There are some complimentary tickets for board members. Anybody in the audience, if you need some, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other residents like to address the board this time?
Yes, it also says residents can comment in section 9.
I'm sorry?
Residents can comment in section 9 at the end.
Yes, you can comment later also.
Thank you.
Any other residents that like to speak right now? Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda. Under minutes, we have 5A, approval of regular board meeting of July 24, 2017. B, receive and file draft stormwater committee meeting of August 8, 2017. C, receive and file draft plan commission meeting of August 21st, 2017. 6A, approval of an ordinance granting special use of approval to permit outdoor overnight parking of trucks as recommended by the Plan Commission, Z10-2017, 412 Rockwell Drive, Permaseal, Spencer. B, approval of an ordinance granting conditional sign approval as per the Village of Burr Ridge sign ordinance for approval of a ground sign in a residential district, that's S2-2017, located at 7425 Wolf Road, Pleasantdale Park District. 6C, approval of an ordinance granting a variation from the Village of Burr Ridge zoning ordinance to permit a fence located in an interior side yard, V02-2017, located at 10 South 650 Oak Hill Court, Berliner. D, approval of request to table consideration of Plan Commission recommendation to approve a special use renewal for the continued use of an automobile sales and service business, Z08-2017, located at 101 Tower Drive, Global Luxury Imports. Under resolutions, we've already done 7A. 7B, adoption of remove, I'm sorry, who said that? Okay. Considerations. Approval recommendation to approve agreement regulating video surveillance cameras for the neighborhood video surveillance program, Burroughs Glen South, Greenbrier subdivisions. 8C, approval recommendation to approve agreement regulating video surveillance cameras for the neighborhood video surveillance program, Cramwell Estates subdivision. D, approval request from Mayor Straub and Trustee Model for reimbursement of registration costs for the September 21st, 23rd Illinois Municipal League Conference in Chicago. E, approval recommendation to award contract for purchase of replacement for Public Works Unit 44, the wheel loader. F, approval of recommendation to award contract for purchase of replacement water division trash pumps. G, approval of recommendation, proclamation designating October as Fire Safety Month. H, approval of August 14, 2017 vendor list in the amount of $827,146.94 for all funds, plus $325,784.22 for payroll, for a grand total of $1,152,931.16, which includes expenditures of $72,730.25 to DUCOM for dispatching quarterly share, and $16,375 to Dynamic Heating and Piping for train chiller leak repairs at Village Hall. I, approval of August 28, 2017 vendor list in the amount of $123,132.59 for all funds, plus $215,732.41 for payroll, for a grand total of $338,865, which includes special expenditures of $16,600 to BKD LLP for fiscal year 17 audit progress payment for August 2017, $39,345 to Denler Incorporated for crack sealant program on village streets. May I have a motion to approve the following items on the consent agenda? We have 5A, B, C, 6A, B, C, D, 7A, B, 8B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and I.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Scalpa?
Yes.
Trustee Mattel?
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
6-0.
Consent agenda items pass 6-0. Our first item is 7B, adoption of resolution authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Burr Ridge and the County of DuPage to participate in the DuPage Judicial Information System, Police Report Management System. We had a resident that asked that to be removed.
Mark Toma, 7515 Drew. Actually, being a graduate of the Burr Ridge Citizens Police Academy, it's amazing the amount of paperwork and the record keeping that has to go through the police department. And some of the disjointed systems I saw there were incredible. So, as a matter of fact, I think the chief and I talked about that a little bit during the class, just that there weren't any better systems out there. So I'm hoping that this is a better system. I was asking if maybe we can get a better explanation as to what the system does, and also if any of this system will be usable for the Cook County side of our village as well, because again, our disjointed community, half of it being in Cook County and half in DuPage County, it would be nice if we can pull some of these systems together.
Good evening. This is a very large project, so don't run too far away. You might want to get more detailed. If you can narrow down the scope of your concerns, it might be easier and I can answer the questions. I'll give an overview real quick. This project, I agree. That's what I studied last week, was all the acronyms. Basically, the DUGIS project is a, let me back up a little bit. Since we are now members of the DuPage County ETSB, and we disbanded our ETSB, we have the opportunity to be part of the DUGIS project. And with the DUGIS, the DuPage Justice Information System, that's one acronym. Basically, what the ETSB is doing, with DUGIS, there is the CAD side and then there's the RMS side, so more acronyms. CAD is the computer-aided dispatch. In our squad cars, each car in a marked patrol vehicle has a computer in there. And when our officers receive a 911 call, the call is transmitted over the air through cellular network, and they receive the call on their computer, which provides a significant amount of data on where to go. That's the CAD side. That's the computer-aided dispatch. Now, the RMS is a records management system side. Right now, the Burridge Police Department we have our own in-house system. It's called Capers, and that's a proprietary software. Capers is the name of the company. We've been on this records management system for approximately 17 years. We researched about 4 years ago to try to move on to a new records management system because we were unhappy with the lack of reporting and data. Residents call and ask for information, the board, the mayor, and police departments have to have data that they can draw from their records management system. We spend a lot of time putting the data in. We need the data to come out so we can improve our services and efficiency. And it's been average to say, at best. So we researched records management providers and found out that it's very cost prohibitive. It's a very expensive proposition, so we decided to stay with Capers. Now that we're members of the ETSB and we have this opportunity, we're going to be part of a county-wide system, which is another great benefit. Right now, our records management system, we can query anything in Burr Ridge, and that's both counties. So Burr Ridge as a whole, and that's how it's going to be on the new system too. With this new system, the benefit is it's county-wide. It's 31 municipalities that are feeding data into the system. So when I sit at my desk, I can query a name, an address, anything on an individual, and I'll immediately find out if they were arrested in Naperville, Warrenville, anywhere in the county that's on the system. So that's another great benefit. And the other benefit is the opportunity to be part of this system, which would be cost prohibitive for the village of Burr Ridge. It's expensive, but the cost is shared amongst the municipalities and the ETSB. The ETSB, our surcharge money that we used to receive, that the ETSB now receives, is paying for the CAD portion, 100%. So that half is being paid by the ETSB. The RMS portion cannot be paid with ETSB money because ETSB money is restricted. It's for anything involving a 911 call. So our radios can be purchased with ETSB money. The computers in the cars, they could be purchased with ETSB money, and that's how we did buy our computers, because it's all related to 911 calls. So it's very restricted. What this system does, it's very robust, and for the past year and a half, the chiefs have selected individuals to work as a committee, to work with the company by the name of Intergraph, to modify the system to exactly the way we want it. And that's taken a significant amount of time. So we're able to get a robust system, something that we've never had before, for a fairly lower price because of the purchasing power of all the municipalities. I broke down the cost, which starts in this budget, and it's outlined in what I provided, the 17 for this budget. Our first payment into the ETSB for the RMS side would be $15,980, which is 50% of the capitalized cost. What the ETSB did is broke it down over 2 years. The second year, 18-19 budget for Burr Ridge will be $17,481. In the way they figured out the cost, and then moving forward, projecting out from FY 19-20 all the way to 23-24, that 5-year projected cost, what they did is they broke down the total cost of the system to a price per user. So we're being billed as 32 users in the police department. And that's how they came up with that cost throughout the county. So a larger police department is going to pay significantly more. And in that projected cost that you saw over the 5-year period, the first year would be fiscal year 19-20 is $24,082. And in that $24,082, there's 3 components. You break that down, there's $10,000 that's an equipment replacement cost. So over the 5-year projected cost, there's $50,000 that the village of Burr Ridge would have paid over the 5 years, and that's strictly for equipment replacement, servers and everything else related. And that's the technical side that I'm not totally on. But this is going to be a big system. It's going to be a big system. It's going to be managed by 4 people who are going to be employed, an IT manager and 3 other persons who are going to be employed just to manage this county-wide system. So out of that 24,082, we got 10,000 going to equipment replacement, approximately $7,000 for personnel. That's paying for those 4 positions. That's their salary and benefits. And then the third part of that would be approximately $6,000, and that's our annual maintenance cost. Right now with Capers, we're paying $10,200. That's their, we didn't pay that. That's what they billed us. We've already told them we're leaving, so what they did is they kept it at the old maintenance cost, which was $5,000, because we're not moving into their proprietary server. Moving forward, they wanted us to buy a appliance, as they called it, for $15,000. So basically what they're doing is bringing their server in with their software, put it in the village hall here is where we have everything. And on top of that, you got $10,200 a year for maintenance. That $10,000, we only paid, I think, approximately $35,000 17 years ago for it, so that's gone up over the years. But as you've seen as an alumni for the Citizens Police Academy, we can't really get a lot of data out of that. And I'll tell you another side of the CAD portion. When my officer receives a call over the computer, it's also voice dispatched. So everything that comes over the computer is sent out by voice. And you know that part of CAD is not having those voice transmissions. That's how we have 30 officers on one channel. But because of the current CAD system, they can't rely on that because nobody knows what the other officer's doing if they don't voice everything. So there's redundancy in there, and that's because it's archaic. So right now, if they're in a normal CAD system, a high priority call, an emergency call, burglary in progress, bank robbery, home invasion, those are always voiced. CAD is secondary to that. We want to get it out, we want to communicate. But if it's a stray dog, if it's a disabled vehicle, those are normally sent over the computer and nobody communicates over the radio. The problem is when you're a watch commander on the street and your officers get those low priority calls, currently we have no idea unless they voice that. So the system we're on is antiquated. This is going to be light years ahead in moving forward, and it's a significant benefit to the citizens of Village of Burr Ridge. It helps us do our job better. Do you have any other questions?
Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
Anybody else have questions for the chief? May I have a
Thank
motion
you.
to approve 7B?
So moved. Second?
With no further discussion, roll call, please.
Trustee Skiappa.
Yes.
Trustee Model.
Yes.
Trustee Hestes.
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa.
Yes.
Trustee Mattel.
Yes.
Trustee Snyder.
Yes.
6-0.
Thank you. And now we are on to the considerations. 8A, updates regarding the planning for a strategic goal-setting workshop. And we'll have our village administrator, Doug Pollock.
Thank you, Mayor. At the last board meeting, the village board discussed some parameters for having a strategic goal-setting workshop. It was decided to target October as a date for that workshop, to plan for two evenings or two half days or a combination of the two, 3 to 4 hours for each session. And you directed staff to seek proposals from consultants for doing that work. You'd also mentioned a volunteer organization, SCORE, which stands for Senior Corps of Retired Executives, and asked me to research their availability and their ability to do this type of work for the village. I sent the request for proposal to half a dozen consultants. I got 2 responses. We also interviewed those 2 people, or representatives of those 2 firms. They were the Executive Edge and Executive Partners. I've also had several phone conversations with a representative from SCORE, and they, in summary, the representative from SCORE said they would be willing and able to do this, but they've never done it before, at least not with village governments. They work primarily with small businesses. Their primary mission is to be mentors to small businesses. Of course, on a side note, as I mentioned in the written summary, that piqued my interest when they told me that. I said, we got to get you guys to our Economic Development Committee and make you a resource for the village, for our businesses in the village. Also, in the conversation I had with them, they said they're always looking for volunteers, and I said, you've got a wealth of talent in Burr Ridge that I'm sure you could get volunteers over time through Burr Ridge. So that's kind of a side note, but the question before you tonight is, how do you want to proceed? We can either you can continue to get more information from from SCORE, or if you want further information from either of these two proposals we received, or you could select one of the two proposals or decide to go with SCORE if you'd like, and I'm looking for your direction on how you want to proceed.
Questions of Doug? Who would like to go first?
So just curious on the range of the costs. Can we, can you discuss that at this time?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. The two proposals we got were for identical costs, $5,000 to $6,000. It's $5,000 minimum. Both had administrative expenses that would be added on. In both cases, it ends up, depending on how much that is, it ends up being right around $5,500 for either one. So they were both about the same. They both proposed roughly the same program. As I said, assistant to the village administrator, Evan Walter, and I interviewed both firms. They're both very capable. I think either one would do just fine. I kind of lean toward one over the other. I wanted you, though, to be able to form your own opinions, because I think both of them, either one, is more than capable and has good experience, good references.
And for the fee, they're going to facilitate the discussion and arrange the notes and give us some results and that type of stuff. Is that what they're proposing?
Right. In both cases, the program is very comparable. They would start with some pre-session research. One of the consultants talked about questionnaires and surveys of the trustees and the department heads. The other one talked more about telephone interviews, calling each department head and each trustee and the mayor, and spending 20 to 30 minutes just talking about issues and then gathering that data. So they both started with that different but similar pre-session research. They'd compile that information. We'd also include our community survey information that we're doing in September, and staff would provide some background on some of the goals from previous years and issues that have come up in previous years. All that would be compiled before the workshop for the consultant to use and for the trustees and the department heads to review. Then they'd have two sessions. The first session, the consultant would lead, and it would focus mainly on visioning, team building, identifying strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and then that would be a 3 to 4 hour session. Then we'd take a break, a day, a week, whatever is appropriate. The consultant would gather all that information, digest it for us, come back in a second session, and we'd actually get into setting goals, talking about, based on our analysis of what the issues are, the strengths, the opportunities, et cetera. At the second session, then we'd get into the nitty-gritty of what can we address, what should we address, what goals do we want to set for the next 2 to 3 years, but also long range. But the main focus is on the next 2 or 3 years, but of course that's in the context of the longer vision. And then they both, to conclude, would then come back after the workshops and provide us with a written report of the results that we could then use to monitor and implement the goals.
Thank you.
Trustee Francis?
Either of these firms, they both have expertise in running goal-setting workshops?
Yes.
Extensive experience, or is it?
Yes. In terms of experience, I thought the main difference was Executive Partners had more government experience.
Thank you.
And do you favor that one?
Probably, if I had to say, I would go with that one, Brian.
Trustee Mattel?
Who did you use last year? I believe this is the second year we're doing this, right?
We've done this several years, basically every 2 years for the last 15 years or more. And the last time, we did it in-house.
Okay.
It was just staff-led. Steve Stricker was administrator at the time, and he just kind of led it and participated. A time before that, I think we used Lisa Shiner, who was the assistant to the administrator. One year, we used a village resident, Rich Padico, who is a private businessman and very experienced, did real well.
But in retrospect, I think there is some distinct advantage to having, as Trustee Francis was kind of inferring about governmental experience.
Right.
Would be helpful, and so it's not the first rodeo.
Right, and we have hired consultants before, similar to the ones we're looking at now.
Trustee Snyder?
And you felt that SCORE said they could do it, but they just never had done a governmental body.
Right, it's a little bit more of a wild card, because I just don't know what they, if their perspective of private business, I'm sure it has some advantages of having that perspective, but the other consultants have both. They have experience with private business and with governmental entities.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Trustee Schiappa?
Yeah, I read through both the proposals, and I would have to agree with Doug that I would lean more towards Executive Partners because of that governmental experience. And he's got pretty extensive governmental experience with villages similar to ours. And I kind of like his planning. I think it's a little bit more in line with what we're looking for versus the other team leader.
So Doug, at this point, what do you need from us to proceed?
If you are comfortable with going with Executive Partners, then a motion to approve their contract and direct staff to proceed with the schedule.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Any other discussion? Trustee Paveza?
You said it's a cost of $5,000. And then other things, what's the top? 6,000 is tops, or did they give you a tops?
No, they did. It would, with Executive Partners, it was structured as $5,000 plus not to exceed 10% administrative costs, so absolute top of $5,500.
What about the other one?
The other one had the $5,000 plus $45 per pre-application analysis. In other words, the 12 or 13 questionnaires and surveys they would do, they would charge us $45 a piece, and that ends up being about $5,540, I think. It's more or less identical.
Any other discussion or questions of our village administrator? We have a motion, we have a second. May I have roll call, please?
Trustee Schiappa?
Yes.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Beza?
Yes.
Trustee Mattel?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
6-0.
Okay, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Under other considerations for announcement, deliberation, and/or discussion, no official action will be taken. Any items there? Usually, oh, I'm sorry.
Maybe an update from staff on how the waste hauler franchise agreement is going through the village so far?
I think it's going quite well. There was the first week, there was quite a few phone calls, just mostly they haven't picked up my old cans yet, and they're still sitting out on the driveway. But every time I got one of those calls, groups got on it pretty quickly for most every time. But Karen, would you agree that things have settled down now?
Yes.
It's pretty, after 2 or 3 cycles through, I think they've mastered their routes or close to it. And I think things are going
Frank said
well.
would happen. It would take 2 or 3 weeks, and then there'd be a little confusion in the beginning, but things would settle down quickly. So, glad to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, we're now back to the residents' comments section. Just for the education of everyone that's here that's a non-resident. We do that to separate so we don't get derailed from normal village business. And I also knew the meeting wasn't going to be that long tonight. So we welcome your comments under the next couple sections down here. Also, that let you know that we do allow 5 minutes, and unlike at the District 86 board meeting, I'm not going to limit it to 3, because we welcome your feedback and your comments. And so it is 5 minutes. And I also apologize, I'm unable to hand off the one resident's request, hand off one to a non-resident. That's just not prudent, and that would also lead to kind of running amok a little bit. So, but we are almost at that part. Right now we're going to the. Are there any other residents that would like to address the board at this time? Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Adolph Galinsky. I'm a resident of Burr Ridge. I have 3 children in the Gower district, Gower school system, 2 in middle, 1 in west. I'm grateful that you joined the conversation. Thank you for attending. Thank you for coming. I'm a frustrated resident. I'm a frustrated taxpayer. I'm a frustrated parent. I wear many hats, just like everybody in this room, frustrated all around. I am very concerned with the disturbing inequality. There's different types of inequality, different examples. One example, some students have a choice, others do not. When given a choice, most students choose Central over South. 1% of South students come from the buffer zone. 5.5% of Central students come from the buffer zone. Again, 1% of South students come from the buffer zone. 5.5% of Central students come from the buffer zone, and Central has more students. The data is easily available. It's in the Freedom of Information Act request 17-1, requested March 27th, 2017, from Joan Brandeis, provided by Bruce Law. I'm frustrated with the inequality in academics. There's programs of study which are available, which document the offerings or lack thereof. It also documents, more importantly, the prerequisites. And the prerequisites are different. I'm frustrated. Thank you for engaging. I look forward to continuing the conversation with you.
Thank you, Adolph. Appreciate it. Any other residents that would like to address the board?
Hi, I'm Betsy Levy from Burr Ridge. So I've written this, so indulge me. So we're at the Burr Ridge Village Board meeting, and I will try to tailor my comments to address a village's interest in its local school or schools. This same conversation could be had at a Darien or Willowbrook town meeting as well. I'm impressed that Burr Ridge actually sees a correlation between town and school and wants to help be part of the solution. I had never really thought about it. I had always considered schools and towns to be separate entities. They each have their own boards, after all. But are they really separate? A village or town worth anything, I would think, would want its schools to be excellent and highly regarded, for many reasons: for the benefit of its citizens, children and adults alike, for the town's reputation and standing, for its ability to keep and attract homeowners and businesses, and for various economic reasons, such as home values and property taxes. When a school board has it within its power to snub one school and favor another over and over and over again, it is sending a message. District 86, comprised of 2 high schools, Hinsdale Central and Hinsdale South, is one district, but you'd never know it. Even though both schools have equally excellent credentialed teachers, even though spending per student is exactly the same at each school, and even though the average class size is similar, South's is 21 to Central's 20, as per the Illinois State Report Card 2015-2016, Central has, but you'd never know it, just a second. Just a second. I've lost my whole thing here. Okay. Central has, and at no time has the school board created a situation, consistent, okay. And at no time has the school board created perception situation been more acute than it is right now. Central has been trending to be overcrowded by approximately 400 students. South has been trending to be underpopulated by approximately that same exact number. The District 86 board takes pride in never having had to go to taxpayers for a referendum since Hinsdale South was built in the mid-60s, except, of course, for this past April, when a referendum was resoundingly defeated. So how, may you ask, did Hinsdale Central get a new science wing, a new second floor addition, a new cafeteria, a new Starbucks-type area, a new library over the years? Simple. The board took it out of its reserves, its savings account. That's called backdoor referendum. The board empties out its coffers of tax dollars you've already paid, so you don't feel it, and in many cases, you don't even know about it. Anyway, that's how District 86 boards have been adding on to Central all these years. Deplete reserves, add new tax dollars, deplete again, add again. But Central is old. It needs more, is the argument. Central is only 15 years older than South. But Central is bigger. It needs more. The board keeps increasing its size, buffer zone, addition to buffer zone, shadily making part of the buffer zone Hart Central. So the can has been kicked down the road to this current school board, not an enviable position. But something is different this time. Whether the board decides to try for another referendum that will raise our taxes or chooses to use its old standby, the backdoor referendum method, using tax dollars we have previously handed over, either of these options should be off the table. According to the 86 school board's own words, in its own goals and objectives, policy 5.1, the board is to optimally utilize facilities at each school to reflect changing enrollment in the district. This policy mirrors almost
Betsy, I
exactly.
think you have about 30 more seconds.
Okay. If the board refuses to do its fiduciary duty and is afraid to do what is right, it hurts South students, past, present, and future. It hurts Central's community for insinuating misinformation, and it hurts this town, and that's bringing right back. I didn't do that good of a job, but...
Well, Betsy, thank you, Betsy. Are there any other residents who'd like to address the board this time?
Hi, Deepak Mittal. So what are you going to do?
So what are we going to do? Well, right now we're going to listen.
I'm sorry?
Right now, we're going to listen.
No, what are you going to do about this central board pushing all these, monies towards central? What can we do?
Actually, right now, it's not even on tonight's agenda, but this is just for purposes of getting feedback. Next week is next board meeting on September 11th is actually when we're looking to put it on this actual discussion, start discussing our options and maybe do some research between now and then.
Thank you.
And again, that's really next board meeting, we're actually going to be discussing it. But we're certainly welcome your comments after this next section.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Please explain to me why we are undertaking District 86 business at our board meeting. We have our own issues and concerns to deal with.
Well, actually, we'll cover some of that in a minute.
Okay.
Under reports and communications from village officials, first off, I'd like to Doug Pollock to give a village update on the asphalt plant.
Yes, I'd like Evan Walter, Assistant to the Village Administrator, to provide that update. Evan's been our lead person and has been following this public hearing process with DuPage County from the beginning.
Yes, thank you, Administrator. Thank you, Board. Good evening. Yes, I've been attending all the meetings. I've been following all of the updates on this plant. Just to give everybody in the audience a little bit of a background as well as the Board, what's occurring is that a petitioner, Lorig Asphalt Company, has petitioned the county, DuPage County that is, to put a plant down on 9900 South Route 83. I believe we'll have a map up here in a moment. This site is right near the Des Plaines River. It's just to the south of our corporate boundaries. If you'll see, this is the river right here, Des Plaines River. This right here, this portion, this is the exact site as to which the Lorig site is planned to be put on, right here. 97th Street is right about here. That's the south corporate boundary of Burridge, so it's fairly closely located to the village boundaries. Currently what's going on is that a townhome division, this group of homes right here, this is called the Emerald Ridge Townhome Association. They're currently suing the site, the petitioner that is, Lorig, to establish the correct findings of fact before the County Board of Appeals. And so you've all heard the Plan Commission packets that come for you asking for a special use, a variance, something to that effect. This is the same type of thing that is occurring right now. The use is a conditional use, so that means it has to abide by certain findings that it will not impair an adequate supply of light and air to the adjacent property. It will not increase the fire hazard chances of this property. It will not diminish the value of land and surrounding property within the area. It will not unduly increase traffic congestion. These are the types of things that they're currently doing battle about right now in the public meetings. For the record, they've had 3 public meetings on this so far. That were the first occurred on June 29th, July 20th, and August 16th. Right now, they've also scheduled 3 further hearings on these exact initiatives right now. Those are being scheduled for September 28th, October 19th, and November 9th. Now, they have said that they would like to get a recommendation to the county board, who will ultimately make this decision, by December. So we do have a little bit of time before a recommendation is made by the County Board of Appeals. As part of the petition process, this petition also has to go through the County Development Board, which is really the equivalent of our Economic Development Board. They need to make a recommendation based on the tax value that it will bring in, how it will impair the surrounding property values, things of that nature, and they will provide a recommendation to the full board once they have debated this. There's been quite a bit of public objection to this. I've been speaking to several residents who have been leading kind of a grassroots objection to this. You may have seen the signs going on around, no to the asphalt plant signs. They've been put up in people's yards around the village. Just to remind everyone, the village board has objected to this use, and that has been filed with the county board at this time. It's been read for the record. So the board is on record as objecting to this use. So they have done all that they officially can do at this point. So at this time, I would like to just ask if there are any further questions that I can answer that I have not so far. If there's any other comments that you'd like me to make or touch upon?
No? Okay, thank you.
Trustee
Francis?
Yes, at the next 3 meetings, Which of those are available for public comment?
So they all technically are available for public comment. The trick is you're only allowed to comment once. So once you've made your comment, you can't go back every meeting. A very small amount of people have already commented. When I attend these meetings, I'm waiting for the cross-examination really to be over so we can comment more with some of our residents that go up to the microphone at that time. So I try to make sure that I can coordinate as best I can with residents and other people who are invested in our village. But at this time, I think only 2 or 3 people have officially gotten up to the microphone and commented. However, I've seen about 1,000 signed petitions that are going to be submitted to the county once they've been validated by the attorneys that are in the process.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Evan. Now to the back to the subject at hand. I know many of you want to speak next about this buffer zone, and frankly I'd like to start by saying we love you guys. I mean, Hinsdale Central is not just a cousin. You're family by virtue of, you know, we're maybe 2 villages, but we're one school district. And I can really appreciate your concern, and I hope that you can appreciate ours and hear our side. Because frankly, you're right. We've never spoken, and as Trustee Francis pointed out, what can we do? We don't know if we can do anything. But we want to be heard just as you do. I think that we have 2 great high schools. I know we do. They're both doing remarkably well, you know, in District 86. And actually, I congratulate Hinsdale Central. You've created almost like a semi-private atmosphere, semi-private school atmosphere, which is, you know, and with good intentions to give, you know, some limited residents a choice. Now, I don't know if there's any other buffer zones in the state, but we're looking into that. You know, I also think that it's not totally the fault of the District 86 board, because they're just serving the best interest of their constituents, and it's really not their fault that no one in Burr Ridge, it's to the best of my knowledge, that's in the Hinsdale South School District is on the board. So I don't think that you always hear what Burr Ridge has to say. And to one of the residents thanking us, you know, that's what we're trying to do. The basic consensus is that there's nothing that we could do about a school district. You know, it's a separate taxing body. God knows Illinois is known as having the most taxing bodies, most government agencies of any state in the country. You know, so don't even bother trying. I've been told that for years. But you know what? Once you hear enough residents, including the 93% of the residents that voted against the referendum last time, you know, knocking on our door, we've got to start the discussion. And in our opinion, it needs to be fair and balanced, and that's really all we're asking. That's all that I'm asking, and that we look at it from both sides. And are there any other, Trustee Model?
Yes, Mayor. Thank you for your leadership and for allowing me to speak on this issue. You know, when I was running for this position and after I started serving as trustee in the village, the number one issue I've heard over and over from residents is we have issues with our schools and it impacts our property values. And from what I understand, many residents take issue not only with District 86, which is the high school, but also in the way the district is set up with the buffer zone and what they see as imbalances and inequities, but they're also frustrated with Burr Ridge Middle School District 180. And while these are 2 separate issues, they do intersect in some ways, and perhaps solving one might help lead to a solution for the other. And the reality is that they're both in Burr Ridge. Regarding the high school, I personally watched what has happened in the past 25 years since the buffer zone was implemented and then expanded. From where I stand, the board created the overcrowding at Central over the years. Then it exacerbated it by expanding the buffer zone, and now they believe the only solution is an expansion at Central, requiring more money from the district taxpayers, and the majority of those new resources should go to Central because they claim there's more students there. Again, they created that. So now overcrowding, it's a problem at nearly every school district around us, and they deal with it. And the overwhelming majority do one of 2 things. They either regularly adjust the school district boundaries to balance attendance, or they've gone to fully unified districts with upper and lower classmen between the schools. District 86's approach stands in stark contrast to the normal and usual solutions that I've seen out in these communities around us. And I want answers why. Because other than for a lack of courage to do the right thing, I fail to see the logic and, more importantly, the equality in their approach. And from my perspective, at some point it starts to look discriminatory. Moreover, I see that the board is spending more taxpayer money to try and move forward with the referendum that the residents clearly don't want. 93% in our area voted against it. And I don't want those, they want to raise more resources with any referendum, but until they're allocated fairly, I don't think residents are going to vote for that. It's not that they're against the expansion or the best for their children's education, it's that it's not being allocated fairly. And now, even worse, I hear that the board is considering utilizing district reserves to fund expansion at Central. Those reserves belong to the taxpayers of the whole district, and the board should use them not just for one school as an end run around the voters. So I grew tired of telling folks that there's nothing Burridge could do to help them. I grew frustrated watching my community grow more divided every day, and I'm saddened to see my alma mater, my own alma mater, Hinsdale South, receive less than its fair share, when it truly was then, and still is to this day, a fine institution. It's doing amazing things despite the less than fair allocation of resources. So let me be very clear on that. I know some people have thought that I'm slamming South, but don't misunderstand me. I'm saying just the opposite. I received the best part of my life's education at South, and I was challenged there like I never have been in my whole life, even in college. And I learned to strive and achieve and excel, as their motto states. And a large part of who I am and what prepared me to be here today is from that time at South. So I don't believe the school has lost 1 ounce of that excellence, but I do believe the school has lost out on hundreds of students, equal and fair allocation of resources from the board, and has also wrongly received a false reputation that it is not as good as Central. That's totally false. But from what I can see, none of the district's board's proposed solutions come close to addressing the root cause of these issues. I also regret how these school issues negatively impact the image of our village when folks consider moving here. And this is why it's a village issue. And ultimately, it degrades our tax receipts due to lowered property values. And this is a time when villages around the state are struggling with their budgets. I'd much rather tell my constituents that we were able to raise their property values and, as a result, their taxes and our tax revenues than come to them for a tax increase in 2 years because we have a budget hole. That's why myself, along with Mayor Mickey and hopefully the other trustees will join me here, decided that there is something the board could do. We can start having an open, honest discussion here with our community members, and time is of the essence because we're all losing out on opportunities here. So I believe there's widespread support in Burr Ridge for us to shine a very bright spotlight on this issue, and I believe the village should use its resources in any way possible to help in the fight. So on September 11th, I've asked the board to add an agenda item so we can discuss this in more detail officially and get input from all of our residents and try to advance some possible collaborative solutions so we can solve this quickly. Our taxpayers and our school children deserve fairness, equality, and excellence. Thank you for your input.
Any other board members like to address?
The concern is the decreasing enrollment at Hinsdale South and the increasing enrollment at Central. I have a problem with the buffer zone because it creates a lot of uncertainty in allocating resources, staff, having the facility. And as long as you have a buffer zone, either side, either school could increase in population. Who knows, maybe 10 years down the road, South may be overpopulated, and then are they going to switch everything over? So there is something fundamentally wrong with the buffer zone, and I looked and I didn't find any other school districts which actually have a buffer zone, so I wonder why we are unique in that aspect. So I really feel there is a need to plan around it, and even just like Zach, when I took this position, a lot of my friends were very concerned about the schools. That was number one, and decreasing property values because of that, or the perceived value of Hinsdale South properties versus Hinsdale Central properties. So that's why I feel it is a part of the village, and the school does dictate the property values to a huge extent. So that being said, that's what I feel is important.
You were on a school board, weren't you?
I was on Gower District 62, yes. And I think they're all very fine schools, Gower District 62 and Hinsdale South. My kids went to both of them, and they got excellent education at both, so.
And just for the residents' information too, we also have a trustee that was on, it's been on 2 college school boards. So Trustee Snyder. But, you know, so it's not like we're going at it totally blind, but we're definitely wanting to start the discussion. And are there any other trustees that would like to make any comments now? Trustee Scapa?
Well, I've also been involved with, I've been watching what's been happening at District 86, and I also don't agree with the buffer zones. I think if one person has a choice, I believe we should all have a choice. Well, what's the point of school boundaries if we're going to have buffer zones? So I think we just need to realign those school boundaries and stick to those boundaries and
Firm boundaries.
form those boundaries and stick to those boundaries. Just like Burr Ridge has a boundary, Hinsdale has a boundary, the schools have boundaries as well. That's my input.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. Trustee Francis, do you have any comments?
I think it's beyond the scope of this board to dictate to this District 86 how we feel about their policies. Their charter is to provide education for our children. Our charter is to provide safety and security for our village residents. 2 different charters, and we're overstepping our bounds by meddling in their business. We're certainly entitled to our opinions as residents of that school district, but to use our position as trustees to suggest that we represent their village residents on how they all feel about District 86 is beyond our scope.
I can certainly appreciate that opinion, and I wrestle with it too. Because I wrestle with is Burr Ridge in the District 86 school district, or is the District 86 school district in Burr Ridge? And I prefer to choose the latter, you know. But so if there is something we can do, we'd like to look at it. But if not, obviously get on the board, you know, be heard, and start the discussion. And you're, you know, I know you're on the Cook County side, but on DuPage County side, we hear it all the time. And it's
Are we going to devote equal time then to District 204 and Lyons Township as well?
Actually,
Time and energy?
Lyons Township, actually, LT had a great solution. They split the campuses. Every other school district around here, Trustee Francis, has rearranged the boundaries to accommodate. Just recently, Orland Park, Sandburg had 4,000 students, and they now have 3,000 because they realigned the district so that it was more fair and balanced.
I think we're going down a slippery slope by meddling in District 86 business.
And you're welcome to that vote.
And I think it's good to make comments and let the various school districts know the strong feelings our residents have. But as Trustee Francis said, we've got to be careful we don't get too deep into this, because that's beyond our charter. We're for the village of Burr Ridge, not to encompass Hinsdale schools or other schools. They have their own elected boards. Great that we are subject and we pass on our residents' feelings, but that's about as far as we should go. There's a limit to how deep we should get involved with this. There's other problems that we have to deal with without this. That's why they have their own school board, their own taxing district, and everything else.
They are their own taxing body, you are correct. 65% last time I checked.
Yes.
Now. Okay, thank you. Now the non-resident sections, are there any non-residents who would like to address the board this time?
Thank you. My name is Joan Brandeis. I live in Darien. I want to thank the 5 Burr Ridge residents and parents who came tonight to support my comments. I watched Monday's District 86 school board meeting and was shocked and disappointed to hear some very critical comments, which were switched tonight, made by two Burridge trustees and the mayor. I heard comments from Mr. Model, exact quotes. When I graduated in 1996, the two schools were roughly equal in attendance, test scores, and resources, and the past 20 years, there has been a slow degradation of Hinsdale South at the expense of Central. I think you meant at the benefit of Central. Also, the board started this 20 years ago, the first year of the buffer zone. One school's test scores have diverged from the other. Why wouldn't you want to go to the better school? Why wouldn't you? First of all, it's very disconcerting that as trustees for a suburb that primarily attends Hinsdale South, you call another high school a better school. My sons graduated from Hinsdale South in 2014 and 15, and I will tell you unequivocally that both District 86 high schools are excellent. And, better yet, each school is unique. Let me state some facts about Hinsdale South. We are highly ranked on several notable lists, 28th out of 658 high schools in Illinois by U.S. News & World Report 2017 list of best high schools, and 15th in Illinois on Washington Post lists of America's most challenging high schools. And by the way, we ranked higher than Hinsdale Central on that, nationally and Illinois. Over 95% of our students go to college. Our average ACT score is 22.3, with the top 25% of the class scoring 30.3, an average of 30.3. Universities offered the class of 2017 $24 million in merit scholarships. South graduates attend the most selective universities in the country. Recent graduates currently attend Stanford, Cornell, Columbia, MIT, Brown, Dartmouth, West Point, and the Air Force Academy, to name just a few. Mine go to the University of Dayton. In 2016, we had 45% of the student body enrolled in AP classes. 67% of the graduating class of 2016 successfully passed at least one AP class before they graduated. And overall, our AP exam pass rate was 72%, which is well above state and national pass rate averages. Our diverse population prepares our students for college and the workplace. Magnet schools work to create a student body that occurs naturally in our community. There is also overwhelming research, and I didn't want to state it tonight because I don't have time, both quantitative and qualitative, reporting that companies say it's critical that students enter the workforce with experience sharing ideas and viewpoints with diverse groups of people. We're the smallest school in our conference by far. This creates greater opportunities for our students to be involved in academics, clubs, and sports. South has more academic offerings than any other school of our size in the state. I'm also concerned that you say the voters have spoken, so don't do research to get voter opinion to solve the attendance imbalance. The research that was done for the referendum was strictly for that purpose. And what was put on the ballot was significantly different than the results of the research, so of course the referendum failed. I was on the community committee that reviewed the research and made recommendations. For example, new pools were added, and that was clearly not something supported by the community survey or the committee I was on. Given that, why wouldn't we want more information to address this different issue? What are the motives of those who don't want a decision, who want a decision made without gathering such input? I don't want a few sentences on a ballot determining what direction the board goes, if any, to balance attendance, nor do I want a board of 7 people, albeit very professional, determining that. I want to hear what a representative sample of all residents think without emotion and special interest groups trying to sway the outcome. You should too. Burridge is one area of District 86 overall, and it's the school board's job to get all taxpayer input as much as possible. If you had concerns, why didn't you meet with the Board of Education president and the superintendent, instead of speaking at the board meeting without learning more of the facts and making accusatory remarks? Here are the facts. The facts are Hinsdale South is being unfairly maligned by a few misinformed people, and they need to get the facts straight before speaking off the cuff. The population of South is as much as a result of changing neighborhood demographics, which has occurred over the past 20 years and will continue to evolve in the years ahead. And by the way, the school board president is Bill Carpenter, and he's a South resident. Thank you.
And I want to answer your question, by the way. It was called under the radar. I never knew he was that vote was being taken. I found until some residents finally brought it to my attention. So if had I known ahead of time, that might have been different. But that was our time to speak, just as tonight is yours. Are there any other non-residents that'd like to talk first? Yes.
Hi, my name is Ginny Androulis. I am a buffer zone resident who actually does send my children proudly to Hinsdale South. There is a forum that the district just announced 2 days in early September where they're taking input as to ideas for the redistribution or to address the issue, I guess. So I would suggest that for everybody who feels very strongly as residents that they should attend and hopefully bring good ideas to move our district forward. As Jackie said, South has been suffered, and whenever these discussions come up, particularly in the buffer zone where I live, South doesn't fare well because you're talking about moving people who bought their homes largely to send their kids, to Hinsdale Central. Those people did not buy for a choice. They bought because they were buying a home in Hinsdale Central District. And that would be the case if you picked Clarendon Hills, Oak Brook, anybody to move. So I would encourage all of us to think of ways to solve this issue in a means that is good for South, good for Central, and good for our district. Early September, you'll have to look on the district website to see the dates. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Appreciate it. Anyone else?
I'm a resident. Can I speak in this section?
Actually, and, I want to make sure all non-residents speak first. And if you'd like to speak, yes.
My name is Meg Cooper. I've lived in Burr Ridge since 1994. My children go to Hinsdale Central because that's the school they were assigned to. So all I ask that, I think I would ask that you think very hard about, as a government entity, making a statement for Burr Ridge to make sure that you are representing the voice of all of your residents. And I happen to not agree with a number of the things that a number of the Burr Ridge residents have said. So I just want you to know, as an entity, that please don't let the loudest voices decide that you know how all of us are. I encourage all of you who feel passionately about those school issues who are on this board to go and participate in the conversation as residents of District 86 and be on the committees and be part of it. But please think very long and hard about whether you should be making any kind of resolution that says you represent us all. Because a lot of what was said did not represent me. Thank you.
We have one other non-resident, or a resident that wants to make a comment.
Dr. Meetal again. I'm probably going to be in trouble when I get home, but so thanks for the data. There's, to talk about data, I've been a research professor for a little while, and what they say in academics, there's lies, there's damn lies in the statistics. So I Googled the stuff from this niche thing, and the scores are not that different for SAT and ACT in Central, South, and Central, but Central ranks 7th, where South is 35th. All this academics. Okay, why are we having this discussion? Trustee Francis may have a point. We may be overstepping a boundary. We're having this discussion because when you look at your property values and, south of Plainfield versus north of Plainfield, they're divergent, and that's a very big economic reason for people to be discussing. We are all here today. That's, I think, a big reason. We all want a great education for our kids. Our kids, Anita and I went to the South, and they went to probably the best schools in this country. So people do well whichever school they go to, right? If you're bright, you'll do well. I never went to Harvard, Stanford, or whatever. I think I'm doing okay, right? I never went to college. I went straight from high school to med school. I'm still waiting for the 4 years of partying and a year off to go travel the world. I can't afford it. It's $250,000. So I cannot disagree with Mr. Francisi that, and some of the comments that, are we overstepping our boundaries as a board? Okay, now when it comes to the citizens, we feel strongly we can all get together or find somebody to represent us and, take care of it the American way. I'm a doctor, so I don't really talk to many lawyers, but anyways, enough said.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, you weren't recognized by the chair,
Well, you were taking comments. You just took a second comment from a
but you
Burr Ridge
weren't
resident.
recognized by the chair, were you?
I apologize. I thought you were asking people to step forward.
Our
May I
resident?
have permission to make a closing comment, sir?
No, yes, you can.
Thank you. Yvonne Mayer again, 16-year resident of Burr Ridge. I think it's important for you, as you gather information, to realize that the Hinsdale Central, Hinsdale South issue is not just a buffer zone issue. Again, I don't live in the buffer zone, but I've looked at the demographic maps that are available at the district that show the white flight out of Hinsdale South over the last 15 years that began actually after public housing developments were put into the Hinsdale South geographic area. I think if you're going to have an open, candid discussion, and I believe that the Hinsdale Central D86 is going to have that with their listening sessions, you're going to learn a lot of interesting things about why there's more people living in Hinsdale Central and actually the property or the population has decreased in Hinsdale South over time. You're going to find that it's been a result of white flight out of Burr Ridge, people sending their kids to private schools, not to Hinsdale South. And you need to ask yourself the tough question, why that is. I'm not going to answer it for you tonight. I think you can all probably guess what the answer is. It's a sad commentary on our society when we have excellent public schools and people decide that they don't want to send their kids there because of who else attends those schools. And what I've been very disappointed at are the allegations that I've listened to at meetings I've attended where people that were running for the district, for the school board in District 86, had listening sessions because they ran uncontested, listening to people from Hinsdale South come forward and say in one breath, we want to fill South first, but first, you move those kids to Hinsdale Central. Think about that.
Thank you. And it's unfortunate when as the chair of the board, just like in a classroom, you have to have a teacher, you have to have somebody that runs the meeting, and sometimes I don't mean to come across too authoritative, but I have to. But I will accept one more residents' comments because we went through non-resident section and we have a sort of a retort here. Yes, ma'am, Betsy.
This comment is to defend the nomenclature Phil South First. To the best of my knowledge, Phil South First is nothing other than the idea that the school board should utilize existing facilities before they ask taxpayers for any more money for a build-out that is unnecessary. That is what the message of Phil South First is. And so, Ms. Mayor, I feel that you have maligned that message by utilizing that name when you were talking about people speaking, I don't know what, at these meetings. I have no idea what you're talking about, but I can assure you Phil South First has nothing to do with demeaning Hinsdale South. It has nothing to do with discrimination. It has nothing to do with anything you were bringing up. And so I just wanted to make that clear, because it is a very simple, big tent that everybody really should be able to get around. You just want the school board to utilize facilities in the most responsible, efficient way. And that's all Phil South First is about. So don't go putting words into anybody's mouths, because that is not one single bit about what Phil South First is about. Thank you.
Thank you, and I will say, just as one closing comment, I know Burr Ridge Middle is a lot better school than a lot of people think. I know Hinsdale South is a lot better school than sometimes it gets that people think it is. And I like those statistics I believe Gene mentioned earlier about Hinsdale South. And I think one good thing that came out tonight was perhaps a marketing message out there, and the message to get out just how good Hinsdale South is to help fight the perception. So these discussions are not easy, especially when it comes to MWA. I don't like confrontation, but I do like resolution, and I'm trying to just create solutions and trying to hear it out. So thank you for your input tonight. We are now going to go into a closed session. May I have a motion to go into closed session? So moved. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us.